What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. And this time we're taking a look at A Fistful of Dollars, directed by Sergio Leone, starring Clint Eastwood. A Fistful of Dollars is the very first movie to have Clint Eastwood in a leading role. So, let's talk about this movie. So, Fistful of Dollars is this is a very basically constructed movie. Pretty much, Clint Eastwood plays this unknown stranger who wanders into a town, and he gets caught in the middle of this town, who is pretty much in a tug who's at the town is caught in a tug of war between these two rival gangs called the Rojos and the Baxters, and the people with inside the town are caught in the middle of it. And the stranger comes into town, and he pretty much starts chaos between the two families. So that's the overall basic plot point of this movie. Now, what do I think about this movie? I thought that this was an actual really good movie. I am not a huge Western fan, but I don't hate the genre. There are certain westerns that I do enjoy, like Tombstone and the two Tarantino movies. But this movie, being one of the pretty much being one of the earlier spaghetti western movies, this is a really good movie. I thought Clint Eastwood as the man with no name did an excellent job. He has that Clint Eastwood in this movie for the first couple minutes does not have any dialogue, and he mostly just has facial expressions. And Clint Eastwood always has this just intense look in his eyes and in his face. Like every time you get close-up shots of this man's face, he just has the most intense look. He just has the most intense rage-filled look. And Clint Eastwood did a great job of bringing a lot of intensity and mysteriousness to the man with no name, who is also someone who's very skilled with the gun, quick on the draw, as we also see as the movie, as we're also three throughout this movie. And like I said, I thought Clint Eastwood himself with the character did an excellent job at just making him one of the most interesting characters in this entire movie. I like the on-screen relationships that he develops with this movie. I like the this friendship he develops with a barkeep and a man who builds coffins. I thought the three of them together, they're pretty good. I like it a lot. They got some kind of funny little bits here and there, nothing too out of control. You got the rival gangs, who I thought everyone played their roles fairly well. So yeah, like when it comes to characters and the characters, I thought all the actors did a fine job at playing their roles. Of course, none of them stand out like Eastwood stands out. He stands out like a sore thumb in this movie. That's just because his character is just once you see him, you're instantly just mesmerized by it. Who is this man? Who is this stranger? And Eastwood did a great job of bringing that mysticism to the character. Now, from a production standpoint, I thought this movie is beautifully shot. I love the look of this movie. I thought Sergio Leone did an excellent job behind the director's chair. I adore the cinematography of this movie. I love the landscape shots. I love the close-up shots. This movie just feels really intense and in your face. And there are a lot of shots where you see like the actors and you see them just sweating bullets. You can literally see the sweat pouring off their face when he puts it when you get those intense close-up shots. It's great stuff. Really brilliant camera work. The gunfights in this movie are all really well done and really well choreographed. They look real. They have like a realistic tone feel to it. Of course, they also do look kind of cheesy because when people do die in this movie, I understand this movie was made in 1964, but looking back on it now, when people die in this movie, it does tend to be very over dramatic and kind of very like, whoa, down a little bit. Like towards the end, there's this one scene where the Rojos pretty much massacre the entire Baxter family clan, so to speak. And when the wife gets shot, she like just overdoes it. She's like, oh. It's unintentionally hilarious when you look back at it now from a 2020 standpoint. You're like, that's kind of cheesy, but it's fine the way it was. And I also like this little subplot in this movie where the man with no name, who was referred to as Joe in this movie, he pretty much returns this woman named Marisol back to her family because Marisol was being held captive by the Rojos. And when the man with no name brings her back to this family, and when he rescues her, pretty much he kind of frames it on the Baxters, as if the Baxters went and got her. Further, like putting these two gangs further within each other, pretty much annihilating themselves until we get to the climax of the Mexican standoff, where the man with no name takes out the remaining members of the Rojos in a really, really fun Mexican standoff type of duel type of scene, which is good stuff. So yeah, those are just my brief thoughts on A Fistful of Dollars. Overall, I thought this movie was really, really good. Now, despite my qualms with it over here with the overacting and some of the hokiness when you look at it from a 2020 standpoint, the movie is really well acted. It's well directed. It has a nice, serious tone to it, and it just has a good level of mysticism to it. So, as a whole, I'm going to give this movie a solid 9 out of 10. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Well, if you have not seen this movie, I suggest you give it a watch. I actually really liked it, and I've never seen this movie in its entirety. I've seen bits and pieces of it when I was a kid, but never saw the whole thing until very, very recently. And I got to admit, I wish I would have saw it in its entirety earlier because I was surprised as to how much I enjoyed this. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for A Fistful of Dollars. Anyway, well, let me know your thoughts in the comment sections down below. Do you like this movie? Do you hate this movie? I would like to know. Like the video and subscribe, and I will check you back next time for more.